Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. I have long stated on this channel that cryptocurrencies as an asset class are here to stay. So long as the internet continues to exist, the cryptocurrency asset class is not going away. I am Mr. XRP Bull, and this is an XRP-centric channel, and I could not be more confident in the long-term viability and genuine use of XRP, but you know what I'm even more sure about than that? It's just that cryptocurrencies as a whole are going to be here, because you can do things with them that you simply can't if they weren't to exist. Business models can exist that otherwise simply weren't possible. You can think about what Ripple's doing, utilizing a decentralized cryptocurrency, XRP, as a bridge currency. Look no further. One use case is enough to justify this entire asset class, frankly. It's taking a long time for regulators to figure this all out, right? Well, take a look at this headline. Ripple to be welcomed by U.S. government infers Brad Garlinghouse from Steven Mnuchin's speech. And this is probably, it might be the biggest news of the day. It's big. I mean, it's pretty notable. I'm going to do a dive into this. But before we go any further, if you would please delicately tap that like button. And if you're a fan of Ripple and XRP, and you agree that Steve Mnuchin's last name is hard to enunciate if you haven't heard it before, go ahead and subscribe to the Moon Lambo channel. Before running through this article even, I pulled up a couple of things. So, Steve Mnuchin, who is this guy? He's an American investment banker and civil servant who is serving as the 77th United States Secretary of the Treasury as part of the cabinet of President Donald Trump. And previously, Mnuchin had been a hedge fund manager and investor. So, again, I want to run through this because I want you to understand when I give you the words that Steve Mnuchin said here, I want you to understand the gravity of what's going on here, because having people at the highest levels of the federal government in the United States, first of all, in a place where they understand the technology and the financial implications, but also approve and say positive things pertaining to, frankly, what XRP is positioned to do, the way Ripple's positioned XRP to use as bridge currency. To me, this is substantial. So take a look at this. This is, what I pulled up on the screen here, this is a government website, U.S. Department of the Treasury. Yes, a federal government website here on the Moon Lambo channel. Always makes for interesting content here. So, who is the current Secretary of the Treasury? What is his background, and what does he do? I just want to get into the part about what the Secretary is. We already know it's Steve Mnuchin here. The Secretary of the Treasury is responsible for formulating and recommending domestic and international financial, economic, and tax policy, participating in the formulation of broad fiscal policies, and have general significance for the economy, and managing the public debt. The Secretary oversees the activities of the Treasury Department in carrying out his major law enforcement responsibilities and serving as the financial agent for the United States government and in manufacturing coins and currency. So basically, he's reporting, well, first of all, reporting directly to President Donald Trump. And he is, as they state here, the next line actually, he's the chief financial officer, CFO of the government. That's what the federal government website has to say about him. He's the CFO of the entire country, basically. And so, reporting directly to the president, and he's the head honcho for all things related to finance in general. And so take a look at this. Now that you know that's the role of this particular position, take a look. And again, this piece is titled, Ripple to be welcomed by U.S. government infers Brad Garlinghouse from Steven Mnuchin's speech. And this is at the World Economic Forum in Davos, if you're on crypto Twitter and part of the XRP community, you are aware that this event is taking place. At the World Economic Forum 2020 in Davos recently, the U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin stated when answering questions that the U.S. government welcomes cross-border payment companies that make transactions for both for retail and business customers cheaper. Now, here's the actual tweet. This is from Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse, and he went ahead and tagged Steve Mnuchin here. Okay, and he wrote, Steve Mnuchin at World Economic Forum 2020. When asked about cryptocurrencies, he said, quote, there are benefits to cross-border payment systems in lowering costs for consumers and businesses. We absolutely support companies working on this. Can I read that again? Here's the direct quote again from Steve Mnuchin. There are benefits to cross-border payment systems in lowering costs for consumers and businesses. We absolutely support companies working on this. And then Brad wraps up the tweet stating, critical to apply this pragmatism to United States regulation. Okay, and so from a regulatory perspective, we're not all the way there, but this is relevant. The highest levels of the federal government here. You know, you're talking about Steve Mnuchin. Absolutely on board for this, and it's fine. He was asked directly about cryptocurrencies. This is indeed what XRP is positioned to be used for. So even though XRP didn't come out of the, XRP, those three letters in that order did not come out of Steve Mnuchin's mouth, conceptually what it is being to be used for, 2 thumbs up. You know, this is, so even if, again, legislation still has to be drafted, approved, all that good stuff, fine, but this goes back to, I made this point yesterday, and I've made it a couple of times on this channel, in the mid-90s conceptually, and, think about the advent of the internet, Skype, I can't remember the founding date of Skype, it doesn't really particularly matter, but when it was invented, at the time, it was illegal because of archaic regulation, and so even if there were something to be stopping the way in which money is to be moved around the world as it pertains to cryptocurrencies, government is going to figure this all out, and those cryptocurrencies that have genuine utility, and look, XRP can absolutely change the way in a very fundamental way that money moves around the planet. Those cryptocurrencies that are, actually useful like that, going to have tremendous staying power. That is my firm belief on the matter here. So, very cool stuff. Let me scroll down a little bit further here. The community now believes he was talking about Ripple too. Well, they're all aware of each other, so again, even though it wasn't cited, so they actually have a tweet from XRP Crypto Wolf, who I frequently cover on the channel. He sends me all sorts of cool stuff pretty much on a daily basis here. And so he tweeted out, Brad Garlinghouse telling us the U.S. government supports Ripple and XRP. And then he kind of repeats the tweet there. So, subheading here now, will Ripple be welcomed officially? In his responses, Steve Mnuchin mentioned only MoneyGram, but since his statement was shared by the Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse on his Twitter page, some in the XRP community concluded that U.S. regulators are basically ready to acknowledge and support Ripple as part of the innovative financial and banking system. Besides, all that Mnuchin said about these cross-border remittance systems does apply to Ripple. And so there you go. Then I'm firmly on board with that unquestionably there. So interesting to see how this is all unfolding, is it not? And there's going to be more from Davos here, and I don't remember the exact schedule. I feel like I read about it, and I just haven't retained everything. Here's another article from XRPRippleNews.com. Davos 2020, Ripple, Brad Garlinghouse, President Trump, and Christine Lagarde. Every January, world leaders, financial policymakers, movers, and shakers descend on Davos, Switzerland for a meeting of minds on the coming year's fiscal policies. A week from now, this is from January 15th, by the way. A week from now, Davos has the potential to be an interesting meet with Ripple in attendance, along with President Trump and ECB boss Christine Lagarde. And so now check this out. I'm looking forward to this. Ripple's Brad Garlinghouse is set to be interviewed by the Wall Street Journal. At the very same event, Lagarde is expected to discuss the euro's digital tokenization. So certainly we'll be watching for that. I always love hearing new stuff from Brad Garlinghouse here, and I'll tell you what, this tweet from him today was a surprise. I'm telling you, man. I could not be more optimistic for the future of XRP. It's just my personal opinion there. Next, this is from AMB Crypto, an article that I found fascinating. Bitcoin's privacy war could be worse than the scaling war. So while we're seeing XRP being used in the world today, and we're seeing that the use case that Ripple's going after for XRP is, again, greenlit verbally from the highest levels of the United States federal government, even though regulations aren't there. Amidst all that, you've got Bitcoin, which isn't being used for anything, doesn't scale, and now they're talking about Bitcoin's privacy war could be worse than the scaling war. And I just thought I'd run through some of this just for fun here. And look, I'll say this too, and I don't want to get too far off track here on this video, but in terms of the viability of privacy coins, I am not bullish. Okay, I think that you already seen, and cryptocurrency exchanges the world over, and you're going to see more and more of it, I think, as time passes. They're delisting them because there's regulatory pressures on them. So cryptocurrency is an asset class not going to go away. There's real utility there, and just governments around the world, by and large, are not going to just ban the cryptocurrency asset class. You're going to regulate it, and that's fine, but that means that there are going to be limits here. And privacy coins, highly skeptical that they're going to have any sort of real staying power here. Anyway, Bitcoin, the world's largest cryptocurrency, has been the leading light of the crypto market ever since its inception. The coin, known for solving the double spin dilemma, however, has been entangled in the scaling debate for a long time now, and there have been several solutions introduced to address the problem. One such solution is segregated witness, SegWit, a protocol that played a key role in enabling the development of Lightning Network on Bitcoin, which doesn't really work right now, but that's a side note. While the protocol planned to answer one of Bitcoin's long-standing problems, it, however, did encounter a great deal of opposition in the community. This eventually resulted in the chain being split into two, with the other now being recognized as Bitcoin Cash. While the scaling war did stir up and split the Bitcoin community, there's another prominent debate that could potentially be worse than the scaling war. Privacy war, according to Blockstream's CSO Samson Mao. Speaking about whether there would be other cryptocurrencies alongside Bitcoin in the future, Mao told Blocks TV that there would be a few coins coexisting at least for 100 years, adding that it is uncertain past that. According to him, one possibility is that Bitcoin would be the only cryptocurrency depending on how Bitcoin evolves, which to me is just, it's an unsophisticated, I don't mean that offensively, but it's an unsophisticated point of view, and it doesn't acknowledge that different people want different things from cryptocurrencies, and there are different entities, some of them businesses around the world, that are pushing for specific use cases, and as those gain traction, that will result in standards being created, and standards are not easy to dethrone. So I could not disagree more with that type of concept here. Then the piece continues. He added that one key factor about the cryptocurrency is that it is, quote, hard to effect change in Bitcoin. Going on to say that its definitive feature was that it was not supposed to be easy to change. This was followed by Blockstream's CSO speaking about Bitcoin having a privacy protocol in its base layer, stating that it is unclear whether confidential transactions would make it on its base layer. This, taking into consideration the ongoing delisting of privacy coins because of the FATF's new guidelines on cryptocurrencies. And it's funny, so they're really getting into all these different ways in which Bitcoin could potentially go from a technological perspective. Meanwhile, they're missing something fundamental, which should be obvious, which is it's not being adopted for anything. But anyway, here's a quote. So, will we get confidential transactions in the Bitcoin base layer? Maybe not. Maybe. It really depends, and no one can really foresee what's going to happen. I think if you thought the scaling battle was bad, wait till the privacy war starts. That's when it's going to get messy. I don't know, guys. I wish I had a functioning crystal ball. I do have a crystal ball, but it's broken. But if I could just look 20 years into the future and see how this all pans out, I so want to know how this all pans out. But I'm not a maximalist of any coin, but I just don't see how Bitcoin's going to have staying power if it doesn't ultimately do something. Anyway, that's it for this video, though. Thank you for stopping by. At least we got XRP. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!